This is the installation instruction video for the Pinellas Power Products wireless remote shutoff for the Predator 3500 generator. This remote shutoff will work on the electric start version and on the recoil only start version. The kit comes with a quick written synopsis that tells you you've bought the greatest thing since sliced bread, a flash drive with a copy of this video on it, as well as a shameless advertising plug for myself. It'll have the transmitter for the remote shutoff, a battery package, which is a 12-volt battery system. The battery has an on-off switch, so the on-off switch for your radio module will be this switch right here. When you turn it on, it turns on the LEDs. You notice that 4 of the 5 are lit right now, which indicates that you've got an 80% charge. The kit will also include the battery charger that keeps the battery charged regardless of whether you've got the electric start model or the recoil start model. The shutoff module itself, about a half a dozen small zip ties and 2 larger zip ties. And let's go ahead and get started with the install. I've raised up this side of it and put a piece of wood under it so that I can get the wheels off, because these 2 side wheels need to come off to get this cover off. First step is going to be to remove the 2 small rubber plugs. Underneath each of the rubber plugs is a Phillips head screw. In order to take the wheels off, just take a small pick or screwdriver, pop the hubcaps off of it, on the rear wheel there will be a small cotter pin, a flat washer, and then the wheel itself. On the front wheel will be the same cotter pin, flat washer, and wheel, but there's also a lock ring, and that's for the brakes. If we come around the front of the generator, there's a small Phillips head screw up in this corner. We'll remove this Phillips head screw. We'll leave this one and this one in place. And this screw is the same as the other 2. Then on the back of the generator, there are 6 Phillips head screws that hold the rear cover in place. At the bottom of this housing, there are 3 6mm bolts. They're shoulder bolts with a 10mm head on them. recoil rope about 4 inches. This particular generator has my remote fuel kit installed also. So for this side cover, we're just going to pull it out a couple of inches and rotate it where it hangs down out of the way. And it's being held by the recoil rope and the fuel hose. On the front of the generator, there's a door that covers the battery area. This particular generator, the gentleman who owns it has installed a battery maintainer, and this is simply the plug wire to the battery so that he can plug his battery maintainer in, keep it charged. On this side of the generator, this panel is held on by just 2 screws, and then the rest of it is held on with snaps. So you fold up this rubber plug, or this rubber flap, and there's a plug that goes into a receiver hole here. And just pull the front cover off. There's 2 pins, one here and here, that go into grommets in the generator. Okay. The first thing I'm going to do is to install the battery. The battery will go in this area right here. The kit is going to come with 2 pieces of Velcro. I like to put the soft Velcro on the battery and the stiff Velcro on the aluminum frame. So what I'm going to do is, right below the row of LED lights is where I'll start the Velcro, and then wrap it around the bottom of the battery. Position the battery in place, and you'll see that there are 2 bolts that hold the aluminum cast piece against the steel frame in the bottom of the generator. I don't want the battery to sit on top of those 2 because it will eventually rub a hole in the battery. So what we're going to do is drill a hole. So I've positioned the battery in place, and I've made a mark with a Sharpie marker at the height I want the hole to be. We're going to move the hole in just a little bit because I want tension on the battery. So it's going to end up about 1 1/4 inch up from the bottom screw, or the bottom bolt there, and about 3/8 of an inch in. Now we're going to drill a 3/16 hole through the housing there. Through the casting. Now we're going to take the stiff piece of Velcro We're going to put it against the cast aluminum piece, and I'm going to fold about 3/8 of an inch over, same as what is covered or covering the bottom of the battery. Then we'll stick the battery in place. And again, we want to stick it to the Velcro with the battery just a little bit up from the bolts so it doesn't rub against the bolts. Once you get the battery in place, take one of the long zip ties included in the kit and feed it through that 3/16 inch hole that you drilled earlier. And the zip tie will make sure that the battery doesn't go anywhere. The Velcro will keep it from sliding down, because even the zip tie around it, it is possible for it to slide down, but with the Velcro and the zip tie, it's not going anywhere. So now the battery is firmly in place. Next thing we'll do is take the battery charger and plug it into the bottom outlet on the front of the generator. Just above the battery, there is an opening that allows us to feed this through the battery case and into the main compartment of the generator. I'm using 2 batteries on this one. Excuse me. I'm using my own separate battery and then leaving the stock battery in place, so that if you accidentally leave your radio turned on, it will not kill the starting battery. And also, if you've got the recoil only model of this generator, you don't have a stock battery, and the radio module needs a battery to work. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to zip tie the wire from the battery charger to the main harness, just to keep it nice and tidy and to keep it from accidentally touching the recoil rope. So we want to make sure that there's enough slack in the wiring harness in the front of the generator so that the wire is not stretched real tight like a harp string. I don't know if you can see the wire ties clearly right now. Now we're just going in and cutting the ends of the wire ties off. Okay. There's a black wire that goes from the low oil warning control module into the engine case, and it has a bullet connector. So we're going to unplug this black wire. Take the shutdown module. There's a yellow wire with 2 bullet connectors. Plug the main bullet connector from the black wire into the female bullet connector on the yellow wire. And then the main bullet, or the male bullet connector on the yellow wire, plugs into the original stock black wire. So now what you've done is you've teed this yellow wire into the stock black wire. There's a brown wire with a ring terminal. Remove this screw from the start solenoid bracket. And put the ring terminal and the brown wire on that screw, and then tighten it back down again. Okay, if you're doing the electric start version, this is where you'll attach the brown wire at. If you're doing the non-electric start version, it will not have a starter motor or a start solenoid. You'll have to cut the small ring terminal off of the brown wire and attach the 6mm ring terminal to the brown wire. You'll just strip the insulation back and crimp this on. Then you can go to this bolt to put your ground on. And that would be for the recoil only version. As I stated, that ring terminal will be included in the kit. I'm just going to put the receiver module zip tied to the cast aluminum. And you've got plenty of tie wraps or zip ties to do that with. Then you take the wire that went to the battery charger, you plug it into this fitting from the radio module. Take the other plug from the radio module and you'll plug that in to the top of the battery. We'll just take these wires and zip tie them together because you don't want them flopping all over the place. Okay, now you'll notice that you can reach the battery to turn it on and off right over the top of this cast aluminum piece. Right now the kit is functional, it will work. However, if you take the cover and slide it back into place, take your flashlight, you can see where the battery is. If we drill a hole through the outer cover, it's going to be 5 3/8 of an inch up from the bottom seam and over 2 inches from this side. And we're going to drill a hole just large enough to stick your finger through so that you can toggle the toggle switch on and off. Same way I did on the 2000 watt Predator. You can slide your finger through this hole and toggle the battery on and off. Now, since the battery will be hidden and you won't be able to see the LEDs in the battery, there's an LED on the front of the battery charger. You'll notice with the battery on, the LED is on. But when we shut the battery off, the LED goes off. So that will be your indicator to tell you when the radio module is turned on. I'm just shining a light through here to see where it's coming through and make sure it's coming through at the right place. When you do drill this hole, if you drill a small pilot hole, if you don't like where you've got it drilled, because knowing that you're going to be cutting a hole about 7/8 of an inch around, so if it were in the wrong spot, you could move it down some or over or whatever. But this one's right on the bullseye. The hole's still not quite big enough to get a finger through, so we're going to go a little bigger. Just out of curiosity, I want to see how big we're getting. Okay, so 0.73. Go ahead and see the front. You'll be able to see if it's turning the switch on and off. Okay. So this hole came out at 0.803, which is just over 0.8 of an inch. You'll be poking your finger through the hole and then over behind the web, and that way you can get the battery turned on and off. Otherwise, if you leave the battery turned on, you've got about 2 weeks of standby battery before the battery dies of not running the generator. If you're going to be running the generator every day, you're not going to have a problem with it. Also, if you're running the electric start version, because of the fact that we've got 2 batteries, if you do inadvertently leave this battery on for a week, a month, or whatever, it doesn't kill the generator starter battery. It simply kills the shutoff battery. And then when you start the generator up and you run it for a couple of hours, it'll charge this battery on its own. So, truth be known, you don't have to be able to reach this switch, but I like to have it here. So now we'll go ahead and start putting the cabinet back together. Shine a flashlight in it before you put the cover on, just to make sure that you don't see anything touching the recoil start rope. In this case, there is nothing. In the bottom, we put the same 3 bolts that we took out. Then we'll put the 2 screws into the top that were under the little rubber plugs. Put the rubber plugs in place. We'll come around the front. We'll put this screw in place. Then we'll put the battery cover on. I filed a small notch in the side of the battery cover door. So now you can feed the wire from the battery charger through that small notch to the battery cover door. Then we'll put the rear cover on. Real quickly here, on this hole that you shove your finger through to turn the battery on and off, you do not have to drill the hole there at all. You can leave the battery on all the time if you want to. Or if you'd like to drill a larger hole, all I used is a step drill. This one actually goes all the way up to 1 3/8 of an inch. So that would drill a significantly larger hole. The one I've got is just over 8/10 of an inch. So this hole saw would cut it out bigger yet if you wanted to. That's your choice as to how large or how small, or whether you put no hole at all in there. The rear wheel goes in. You'll notice that there is a hub that sticks out. Make sure that the hub faces in. On the rear, you got the wheel, a washer, and a cotter pin. On the front, you're going to have the brake ring, then the wheel, and then the washer, and then a cotter pin. Okay, and then this cover is the last one to go on. The only reason why I pull this cover off at all is so that I can shine a flashlight back in here and see that there's nothing rubbing against my recoil start rope. You can get a pretty good view from the other side too, but it never hurts to just double check it. This cover is held on by the 3 tabs in the bottom. You slide those into the slots. Then you snap the 2 pins into the grommets. The 2 screws that hold this cover are captive screws, so they stay in the cover. Don't go looking for them. They're not sitting on the bench, they're snapped into the cover. And then just push that little tab in the rubber into the outer cover. And that's it for the install on this. The next step will be to put it down and fire it up and run it and test it.